of the ocean. I'm at the bottom of the sea. I'm at the bottom of the ocean. Don't know if I'll make it back home.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are doing well here. We are stepping into another game in week number 3. This one being 9-3, taking on their opponents of Syntex, which is sure to be a bit of an interesting game. We've had a few kind of new pieces of information about both of these teams, of course, kind of being fresh faces in Unified this season so far. We haven't had any large picture of how they've played in previous seasons. Of course, my name is Sticula. Joining me is Corbeck. Just one game, though, Corbeck. We don't have the usual twofer. We have had a bit of a schedule change up for those of you who might be eagle-eyed viewers of Unified social media. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a forfeit situation.
Yeah, there was a bit of a problem, unfortunately, before this match, but that's okay. At least we get this one. Syntex versus 9-3 should be a bit of a, I guess, interesting matchup, all things considered. And well, the only matchup we're doing today, I guess, Dick. So we better make it a good one, or hope that it's a good one at least. All things considered, but you never know. You're right. These two teams are a little bit new. 9-3 sitting on the 1-run record, coming in Syntex 0-2. So we're not talking about perhaps powerhouses here, but again, it's early days yet, right, in the season. It's not quite the time where we can start to say solidity in terms of who is good and who is bad and what remains to be done. Certainly for Syntex, this is a good opportunity to chalk a win up on the board, right, and push their way forward. And obviously, if you're sitting on the side of 9-3, you want to push it up to a 2-1. You don't want to be sitting at a 1-2.
No, definitely not. And there's only 7 weeks in the regular season, so already to come out of the gate and to be 0-2, it's a bit of a rough start for Syntex. And it hasn't been like their losses so far have been these huge blowout matches where they just kind of fail and sputter out entirely. No, they've had a very close game. In fact, you look back to kind of their position and where they were sort of around week number 1 for Syntex. They took 5-7 against Ogiri, which is one of the top teams down here in the Rogue Spear Conference. And then you look in their week after that, in week number 2, they took on, I believe it was, I want to say they played Candace. I think it was Candace, and I think it was overtime that they lost to Candace. I feel like we casted that one. I think maybe it was myself and Infernosis for Thursday.
It might have been you and Infernosis. I think it was, I want to say it was Chess Club that night. No, that was 9-3 win against Chess Club. Yeah, no, it was Candace. It was Candace, and it was overtime. Yeah. 8-6, I believe, were the final results.
So that definitely gives you kind of a picture that, it's not the worst start so far for Syntex. Obviously, you got to get points wins. You can't get through the season and get into playoffs without at least amassing something of a points bank. And so coming into this situation against a team that's not flawless, 9-3 haven't been, completely out of the gate, a team that cannot be defeated. We've seen them take a loss, and it was against Chess Club. But, I'm just kind of taking a piece across both of these teams. Syntex compared to Chess Club, I think there's a bit of a skill gap, a bit of an experience gap between those two. In Syntex, it's hard for them to stack up against a close conference competitor like Chess, and especially when you take that and you put it into the context that 9-3 have almost come to beating Chess Club. So maybe today we're going to see 9-3 move up to 2-1.
We very well could. The problem is that Chess Club's team has just been dominant in this Rogue group, right? They've kind of stood out head and shoulders above everybody else. I think they have 28 round wins on the total, like an 18 differential between their wins and losses. So the fact that 9-3 was able to give them a run for their money at all, I think speaks quite highly to that squad, and perhaps does put a little bit of an onus on Syntex here to step up their game just a little bit. I mean, 0-2 is bad enough. As you said, you really don't want to go down at 0-3 and be battling from a position where you're essentially looking at having to win out the rest of your schedule, right, in order to maintain viability as this pushes forward. So it's a difficult position for them to be in, and it's a difficult day today. But I mean, on any given Sunday, right, you can kind of, or Wednesday, as it might be, on any given Wednesday, you can kind of come out and give your opponents a run, and maybe we'll see that from Syntex today. I will certainly be interested to see. It's going to be a tough game for them. I think this is definitely some uphill sledding.
We do have to go over to the topic of the map bans and figure out where we're actually going to. For once, I haven't taken a look behind to see where we're going to, so this will be a little bit of a surprise. We got Coastline Largen in charge as the first ban, and Cafe Dostoevsky taken away as second. The new map Chalet will not get pushed forward, as that is 9-3, taking it off the board. And it looks like we are sailing close to a Oregon or Clubhouse situation from the vetoes as they currently stand, as some of the more exotic maps have been largely eliminated.
You would be good. I have taken a look behind the curtain, so you would do well to remember what you just said in a minute. But yes, unfortunately, hopefully it will not be Villa. Unfortunately, it will be Oregon, or fortunately, depending on his is. I don't mind this map as much as some people do, but I can understand that. Syntex will be starting on the attack here, though, which is a little bit rough for them, being that this is a must-win scenario. You don't usually want to start on the attack, especially on a map like Oregon, which it is usually trending more towards the defender side in terms of its overall viability, right? A lot of maps we could have a debate about whether or not they're defender or attacker sided, but I think we can all safely say, with everything that is known about Oregon, the traditional ways of attacking it, the same strats that people like to run, it is probably one of the more defender sided maps currently available in this pool.
Yeah, it's sort of a situation where we just don't see very much change on the map. I'm trying to figure out where we saw these two play so far in their maps from the last week. Syntex, I think, played a Villa game from what I remember when I was casting them back on Thursday in week number 2. And sort of the big story of that game was, how does Yotsuba perform? Of course, he's one of the players for Syntex, and he's been kind of their key entry, one of the more star kind of MVP role players so far. But how is he going to turn up today against what is probably going to be one of their larger challenges this season? Being 0-2, you have got to turn that around eventually, because moving into week number 4, if you're 0-3, it kind of starts to stack up. That momentum goes forward and forward, and if you get to the halfway point of the season and you still don't have any wins, I think that starts to kind of sharpen the image of what the playoffs picture is going to look like, and potentially might be one where Syntex isn't involved.
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, obviously, right, like, I haven't seen Syntex play very much. I can't put sort of advice on them or ideas on them that much, but you got to get your individual player stepping up here. This is a step up week. This is a bigly one. And you're on Oregon, right? You can't claim deference to things like, oh, I just don't know this map very well, or these are some new strats. Everybody knows Oregon. Everybody knows the strats. You're almost guaranteed to run into a defensive setup you have seen a gajillion times, be it in other T3 competitions or in higher tiers as a person watching in, right? You have scrimmed this. You know this inside and out. It's going to be a lot of individual skill stuff and individual decision making, and then put that even farther up on the IGL, who's going to have to make the right calls to try and adapt, especially on the attack, to whatever sort of the tried and true defensive setups you run into are.
One thing that I definitely think will probably help Syntex a little bit more here is it's not a terribly complex map. It's not like you're going to a new map where you haven't played it so far. You have probably scrim experience on Oregon. That's kind of the starting point for a lot of competitive teams. Yeah. This is the big map that you try first, probably the one that you're going to compete with in tryout scrims, and then moving forward start to kind of elevate your performance, building out with strats. Individually thinking back to their week number 2 performance against Candace, it was Hex who was really the huge player. In fact, one of the only players who managed to secure double digits in terms of frags that game, and also really one of the only players who was going positive, which is a bit of a difficult subject to broach. And I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of a closer game coming up this week, because looking back to their match against Candace, you're going up against former CL talent, and to make it into OT, that's a pretty good achievement in and of itself. So I'm hoping that in between last Thursday, there's been some practice that's come in here, and we've got a new team that is ready to play and show their improvement.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, every loss is a learning opportunity. That's the healthy attitude to have towards it. It's a chance for you to kind of read back what went wrong, learn some things, see if you can move some people into different positions. And I mean, you mentioned the fact that not a lot of them are going positive on the KD, but again, against former, higher tier talent, is it necessarily surprising that they're getting outgunned mechanically? Not necessarily, right? It's still problematic. Nobody wants to be in the position where they're, dying all the time in any game. Rainbow Six Siege or otherwise, right? You don't want to be in that spot, but maybe a little bit more understandable, all things considered, if there is maybe a bit of a talent gap between you and the other side. And I mean, still, like you said, the fact that they managed to pull an 8-6 there and at least force it into overtime, probably good for team morale, right? I imagine it's a bit easier to stomach than getting stomped per se, and gives you a lot of footage and rounds to learn from, right? There's a lot you can build off there, and that's something that they're going to want to do in this setup.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And thinking back to where they've been so far this season for Syntex, they have kind of played a little bit closer to the Oregon pool, but haven't actually gone to it for a game day yet, with Villa and Cafe being their two picks. So I'm curious kind of what the idea is here. Maybe they just haven't been able to get onto Oregon. Perhaps it's been vetoed out by their opponents so far. We don't really have any detailed information on that. Maybe I'll go have a look after the match is said and done, but we are just waiting for one more player, hopefully, to load into the lobby so we can press the big red button and finally jump on over. As far as expectations, we talked about what the side positions, obviously one team starts on the offense, how that might have an effect. That could be a bit of a situation where you're fighting against the momentum right from the get-go. Do you think that's going to have a bigger picture effect on this match and how we see it proceed?
Oh yeah, I think that it's hard to argue that that wouldn't have an impact, right? I mean, 9-3. If you're sitting on the side of 9-3, all right, you know that you're not that bad. You know that you've got decent points in the bank. You're 1-1, sure. Okay, you had a loss, but you also have a win, and your loss was against the best team, right? If you're gonna lose to anybody down here, it's gonna be them, right? The chess club are the ones who are gonna beat you. So you know that you're still in a pretty good spot. You look at that first loss, you kind of wipe that one off. You immediately pick up another win, and now you're going into Oregon starting on the defense against a team that's 0-2. You just kind of stick your course here, right? You steer straight ahead. You keep the ship steady, and you just do what you can do and what you can do on this map, and just see how it goes. And I think a lot of what is going to be put here on 9-3, it's not so much a momentum battle. It's kind of rising to the tempo that Syntex is going to set. Now, if Syntex comes out here and they're hard swinging, right, they're going in guns blazing, okay, it's totally on you to be the adaptive force here. I think they're very much in a position where they can ride that wave a little bit. I do think that if they come out on this defense and they just put the boot into them here, it's really going to be hard for Syntex to claw it back, even in their defensive rounds. But, some staying power on that side. They've shown it before. They showed it last week. It's possible it could happen again. I just, you don't have the significant advantage here if you're Syntex, and if you're 9-3, this just helps your overall state going into this game.
So we did momentarily kind of touch on the rosters and who is actually going to be playing in the server today for 9-3. I don't really know who to expect to see in the lobby because they have like an 8-man roster. They've got a lot of players here. Their starting 5, according to them, is Alpaca, T-Hunt Bomber 47. I have to R6 tab him. No idea who that is. Zanky, Crooked, and Stevie, who I actually saw play in SFC Oakwells last weekend for a substitute. And then their substitute lineup, the bench, is Tensa, 13, Dexter, and Pole. If you look over towards Syntex, this is where we're kind of talking about that sort of bank of players who we don't know too much about, who we haven't seen terribly too much. That's Yotsuba, Flex, Hex, Blade, Cadence, and then their substitutes of Krieger and Conquest. So we do have confirmation. It's Crooked, Zanky, 13, Pole, and T-Hunt Bomber, who are in the lobby today, and I presume, maybe not if there's mitigating circumstances, they should be the ones to expect here on the field.
Yeah, so really then they're only pulling in, I believe, well, they are actually pulling in 2 subs to this 9-3 lineup this week. Both Pole and 13 are substitutes here. So that is something to perhaps take into account if you're sitting on that 9-3 side. We talk a lot about substitutes. I would say we go so far as to normalize substitutions, right, in Rainbow Six Siege, which is totally fine, and a necessary part of the game. But part of the problem is when you bring substitutes in, if these are not people who are regularly scrimming with you, if they're not in regular comms with your team, it does have an impact. You can't deny it. And no matter how good the sub is, you're slotting in somebody you don't really know, and it does have an impact on your overall performance. I mean, having subbed in for a college team that I work with a couple of times, as a sub coming in, you need to get up to speed very quickly on what your team is doing and the way they like to play things. And sometimes it just comes down to small things that you don't even think of that much, where a certain player likes to play on Oregon, for example. To them, it could be a tried and tested point. They always go play that spot in kids' dorms every time. That's where they go. But as a substitute, it's just a little thing that you have to keep in mind. Okay, well, that's not where I'm going to be. I'm going to be over here, or if there are explanations of defensive setup. But that said, right, these guys know what they're doing. They're subs. They play as subs on other teams and vice versa. They all know what's up, and I don't know that it'll be a huge factor, but it is still something I think you should look for.
To argue with that too much, I have managed to go and head over to R6 tab, and I pulled back the T-Hunt Bomber's mask. It's Exo, who we were actually talking about earlier in the green room before the call, because he has this great image of the white mask terrorist hunt bomber that he posts, kind of like a reaction image. Yeah, we were cracking up at that, but it's not Exo from Challenger League, who you might know from his play on PDHM. It's just a different player. One who I think played in CCS like season 2, which is like forever ago now, but I'm not totally certain. 9 and 3 have Dexter playing as well, which I believe Dexter is kind of a frequent flyer that plays in some of the NSG tournaments, and I've heard pretty good things about him. So to have him against Syntex here, that's a bit of a scary proposition.
Yeah, it should certainly be a bit of an addition in terms of pure mechanical skill as well. Something that you're going to want to take into account, especially if they're, being a journeyman up at NSG. Obviously, I don't have your Grimoire-esque knowledge of the scene, so I trust what you say completely. I'll just go along with it. Yeah, no, but I do agree with you, right? If what you say is true, pulling him in, having him as a substitute, that's something that you're going to want to have to take into consideration. But it looks like we are having some technical difficulties getting that last player into the lobby, and as much as Stick and I would like to sit here and banter for forever, and certainly imagine we could if we had to, we're going to cut to a quick break. We'll be right back with the map after this break.
Thank you for bearing with us, ladies and gentlemen, but of course, thanks to our wonderful observer Nova and his quick fingers, we are into the lobby and we are ready to go here on Oregon. We're stepping into the operator vetoes and we can finally see what is going down. We did have a bit of an update during the break that I believe Pole is not playing, or at least for 9 and 3, they've had a bit of a substitution, and Dexter is coming in as we were sort of pining about. It's Maverick, who's first to the ban. Thatcher maybe escaping here, Korvac. He's given a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised, to be honest, if Thatcher made it through the ban phase. That would certainly add an interesting dimension to some well-trod ground, but we will find out right here. No, unfortunately, Thatcher not able to escape, will be sent back into ban jail, where unfortunately he does tend to remain for the foreseeable future. And we'll see what the first defensive operator ban is coming out of Syntex. Though that Maverick ban, I think I'm eyeing that one a little bit stick. That is an interesting proposition, and certainly makes taking that library side, or I should library, good lord, tower side a little bit more difficult. This Kaid is removed, often a mirror match there to Thatcher getting banned out.
Well, the one thing that definitely does give me a bit of food for thought here is with the Mav and Thatcher ban, you leave Flores up, who has got a huge place in the meta currently. And to be honest with you, I don't know if Syntex are really ready to slot him into their composition. Thinking back to their Villa game, I don't really remember seeing too much Flores. A lot of time they played kind of more sort of this Ashe, Zoe, Iana composition, but we'll get right towards round number 1, and Syntex will show us whether or not they're going to bring the Flores in, or if things are going to take a bit more of a traditionalist route.
I think you'd almost be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't bring Flores at this stage. This is such a strong map for Flores. It's probably one of his best maps in the entire game as it stands. And I mean, he's turned out to be a very strong operator overall. Another operator that did get lived on the field is Valkyrie, who also can be quite strong on Oregon. Those black eye cameras just continue to be such a powerful source of intel gathering, and you will see Zanki come out on the Valkyrie to start. Yotsuba picking up the Ashe here, and that's interesting. We're actually taking an Ashe here and an IQ instead of maybe like a Zofia. Ashe has really had a bit of a downturn in her acceptability as a part of a lot of lineups, so maybe that's more of a comfort pick on the side of Yotsuba than anything else. I mean, ever since the nerf stick, we really have seen not that much of Ashe.
No, we haven't, and it's for good reason. Ashe is R4C, one of the big reasons why people brought her for a lot of times, has seen a terrible, terrible nerf, but Zofia has had one as well. For those of you who maybe weren't following along with the patch notes, it was actually just yesterday, I believe, that all of those changes were served to the live build, notably including Zofia having a hefty boon to the recoil of that M762, which is now much more difficult to control. As well, some of the other notable changes to Chonka saw a damage increase to his DP-27 machine gun, which is now a little bit better for opening up some of the soft walls. I believe he got a sort of a range increase to his Shumika launcher as well, kind of the incendiary grenade machine there. And as well, on top of that, Alibi has received a 1.5x optic on her MX4, which is definitely something I'm interested to see. This is my first time casting back on the new update, so we'll see if Alibi does get brought out here on Oregon.
Yeah, she has been starting to work into lineups more and more lately, too, on the defensive side. I mean, obviously, we don't see her here, but growing kind of in her impact overall. But taking a look at this defensive setup, it's relatively standard stuff. I don't think anything too surprising there. The Capkin may be the only thing that is a little bit out of the ordinary. Unfortunately, this IQ does add a little bit of a wrinkle there for the Capkin play. It's going to make things a little bit more difficult. Up on the roof there, gathering intel, as you would expect. His Hex, you just pass that on and let the team know what's up. But we're already a minute into the round here, and we are kind of taking our sweet time about this one from Syntex's perspective. I don't think they've quite figured out exactly how they want to run this setup yet, as Flexo goes ahead and pops the window there, takes a quick look in, doesn't see anything. The defender is in that general area, however, and Dexter now in a bit of a dangerous spot as well.
The Jaeger is sort of trapped here. He's backed up into a corner, but playing aggressive. Flexo just waiting outside on highway, seeing if he can work the angle onto any players inside pit. Drone will move forward, moves past, but might not have spotted. The player still holding here on the tarp's box. Flexo will get picked off as a Nitro is sent sailing out of the window, and a rotation now as well. Finally, attackers are going to step back into the big tower. Do they anticipate the player on the tall angle? No, they certainly don't, but Hex, it's a reaction shot in the meanwhile, though. Thurton, another Nitro will detonate, rounding out for 2 kills against Syntex so far. 13 flashed out, but Blade continues the conquest as he puts down the Valkyrie and removes the possibility of one more of those Nitros. Hex just sort of biding his time, waiting for the angle. Tracers go overhead, but the IQ doesn't mince words. She doesn't waste a moment, and she charges forward, puts one there against 13. Another man advantage stacked up in Syntex's column.
It's a bit of a dangerous situation here for Syntex, though. Only about 36 seconds left on the clock. Still 2 defenders to dig out. Plant in the world as well if they can get it down. Pull here pushing up just a little bit. Swings through kids' dorms. Narrowly misses, losing their head. Instead takes a hefty good shot there at Hex. A C4 exploding, gets nothing. Tries to counter it out. Won't fight it. Yotsuba brings the kill down, but Pull gets another one. 15 seconds left on the clock. Hexes goes ahead and starts the plant. You see Pull trying to defend this one out from the kids' dorms position you're probably familiar with at this stage. The diffuser does go down. Pull has to switch over to the secondary. It's the shotgun. It's not ideal. Pull backs up just a little bit there, swings on the door. What can they possibly do? Heading over to Trophy. 30 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, and the offense, they're playing this just about as perfectly as you would. Hex is below, and Pull will begin to tease the plant, but his back is exposed, and that's all Yotsuba will need is Syntex. He just barge into the top floor side after skirmishing with 9 and 3. Eventually, the case comes down, and 9 and 3 look bewildered there at the close of that first defense.
A bit, yeah. They sort of got wrapped up. I mean, they did very well, I think, initially in how they handled that. I will also give credit to Syntex for maintaining a relatively good attacking angle there, and more importantly, knowing when to rotate. I mean, we saw Hexes come across, jump in, go through the attic. It was perhaps a bit lucky that they got the reflex shot off there, but they did manage to get it, and that allowed them to push that angle through. I thought that was a very good call, all things considered, and shows some flexibility that will serve them well moving forward. We are going to go back to that same site again, so 9 and 3 doesn't want to give up on it just yet. They're bringing out Goyo here to add to their defensive lineup. Otherwise, things are largely remaining the same. The Goyo will be replacing the Frost there, with Pull taking on that role. Probably bringing him along for the shields. I wouldn't say this is the most popular point for Goyo, right? You usually see him played down in the basement, though you can certainly get value out of him here.
Yeah, the one thing is you have just Jaeger, and so the argument that I would probably make for Goyo here would be like a trophy extension, but maybe there's a different play in mind than 9 and 3 are going to come up with. Maybe you could see a Volcan inside of the attic space. Of course, that's where Syntex kind of forwarded the largest part of their manpower in the previous go about things. We'll just have sort of the default shields replaced here by the Goyos with the sort of pixel angle inside attic, and the other shield just there next to the kid's doorway. Out cams again are going to be brought, and so I imagine that IQ probably won't be going too far out of compositions here in this best of one. Probably see her stick around for a pretty long time, and the one thing that definitely does come to mind there is with the Valkyrie being such a pest and, you know, being forced to bring the IQ each time, that does kind of put you in a position where you are weak. If you lose the Thermite here, that could be a nightmare situation because you've just got all your hard breach in one player's arsenal.
Yeah, you definitely cannot lose Blade early on. That would be perhaps a worst case scenario. Flexo going to go ahead and open a window right there, definitely giving 13 something to think about. 13 maintains the positioning in here as a frag grenade goes flying out. So just holding on to the top deck of large tower. Flexo knows that the defender is there, just waiting for him to cross the angle. Beautiful kill by the Iana player. No hesitation at all to take that shot, waited for their prey to walk into the sights. And that is your Kapkan down early, but then again, it is Kapkan. I mean, if you're going to lose anyone at this stage, he's probably a more than affordable casualty. T-Hunt Bomber will strike back, gets Hexes. Yosuba going down there as well to Dexter, who's still playing in Armory on about a quarter of his health and still very much a threat in this round. We'll add another one to that as well because Flexo is down and Syntex Esports falling apart here. The wheels coming off. Chaunchus nearly getting hit right there as well. Holds tight on the window. Tries to go for the kill. A little bit of a drop shot coming out from Dexter, but it is sussed out right there, Stick, and taken down.
Only 2 attackers remain, barely 50 HP between them. Closing in on a player inside meeting. Blade won't really matter that he has low HP. Doesn't take a single point of damage from Zenki, who gets caught trying to retreat towards that center area. Meeting room. Exo was actually moved forward, but it's anticipated by Blade, who's going to wrench the man advantage back a little bit further. Those 2 players, 50 HP, but neither of them taking any health off so far. The health pool whittled down. Pull has still got double the health of these final 2, but it's the manpower that really matters here. The 2 guns are up just against the 1. The Vector, a fast-firing weapon. Definitely not one to jot down in the tally of pea shooters. Exothermic going to be used here from Blade. It'll detonate. Nothing to stop it, and now they might be aware of the Goyo's plan. Nitro sails out, it detonates, but it's a little premature and fails to collect upon the final two players who are going to funnel in from the breach and try to challenge, but the game of getting to default is going to be a rough one for Paul. Oh, look at him go there with the Vector, lines up the headshots and says goodnight to that second Dorm's defense.
Well, Pole earning a measure of kind of redemption or revenge for the last round. I was about to say, oh, what have we seen this situation before? Pole, the last one alive there, backed up towards the attic kid's dorm side. But that time, the situation all in favor of the Goyo. Very well done. And again, it was nearly around that 9-3 loss. And I'm actually a little bit surprised, if I'm honest. They come out roaring on both of those defenses. They get a bunch of kills stacked up in their favor. And then in what I would sort of consider to be almost the cleanup phase, right, where you're just trying to wipe off the last few remaining members of Syntex. It's clear that their plan is pretty much broken. They don't have a lot of options available to them. Suddenly, you just start losing kills. I don't know if it's just sort of take your foot off the gas and then get a little bit sloppy once they've secured those 3 kills initially or something like that. But it is an interesting aspect of their play, and definitely I think worth keeping an eye on here as we go down to basement. And once more, 13 bringing out the Kapkan. And this is, I love Kapkan. I don't think he's that good, but I admire the stick-to-itiveness of bringing Kapkan out again, and this time bringing the double whammy as well, the Wamai and the Jaeger there for the projectile denial.
Yeah, I can't say I've seen one of his traps detonate so far, but maybe this basement defense will be the difference maker. Of course, looking at this site compared to dorms, there is a little bit more map control that you've got to take. Oftentimes, you're going to probably have to go for more of a full clear. And just kind of wrapping up thoughts on that previous round, 9-3. They tried to hunt for the frags. Let's not hide the fact there. They gave those 1v1s, and it was Mute in the big tower. It was the Valkyrie in meeting, and the Jaeger at Armory. They just took a couple of challenges where they weren't prepared to trade. And when you do that, it doesn't really matter the quality of the team that you play. That's a 50-50 situation that can potentially start to go just a little bit awry. Yotsuba starts off coming in from the master side, but he better watch his ankles. Who knows where 13 put down some of those Kapkan traps.
Yeah, I mean, Kapkan traps are a thing, right? I usually would say that you get a lot more value out of them in your, unranked matches or something where people aren't being very diligent. They'll walk straight into things like that. But here, speaking of value, Yotsuba just swings the corner, takes Dexter's head right off. And at the exact same time, almost like the synchronized swimming of death right there, you will see 13 taken out as well. So the aforementioned Kapkan is down. But Kapkan traps have limited value against teams that know what they're doing and are wise. You usually try and get them on people who are a little bit more eager and unwise. And speaking of unwise, I do wonder how tight these defenders will have to play in this situation, considering Hex is now pushing downstairs as well.
Well, that's a bit of a brazen peek out there inside Laundry. Zanky almost chasing up to the top of the stairs, sending out a few more shots as Pole continues to contribute. The Wamai, really the main player here striking back. Zanky has swung out into the space at the stairwell, and Hex fails to preempt this, and another one sent down as well as that MPX just continues to fire off up to the main lobby staircase, and we'll finish off that round, which looked like it was starting off oh so well for the offense.
I mentioned at the beginning of all of this when we were on our ramble earlier about individual decision-making, and I think that was a really good example of individual decision-making right there on that staircase. I don't know why you would necessarily swing that staircase and swing it as hard as they did right there when you just watched Hexes get blasted, right? You just watched your teammate go down, and then you swing it again in hard fashion. I mean, we're not even talking about just ducking the door frame. We're talking about being on the stairs. It's a bit of a debatable, I think, choice, though. Would it have changed the overall fate of that round? Probably not. And the 6th pick coming in here is T-Hunt Bomber will stick with the Tashanka. So we do get to see the Lord in action here with that slight rework to both his light machine gun or his H machine. I don't even know. Is that light or heavy? What do we call that?
I don't know.
It hurts now. It's heavy. Is it heavy now? Is it heavy now? Because they changed the damage. It's heavy now. But with the machine gun and the Shumikas, I'm actually fascinated to see what they do with this. I know that, Tashanka is even more of a meme pick now, perhaps, than he used to be in the past for a lot of reasons. But it's rare that you see both of the Spetsnaz operators featured in a defensive setup at this level of play. So I'm quite curious to see what they can do with this.
Well, I guess United 3 are just having a little bit of fun here. They do have T-Hunt Bomber 47 on their side, so, this is what you would expect from them a little bit here. They're on the route for a flawless rotation, though. Sort of a trip around the world to see if they can get this third one on the trot. Syntex looking to take map control. They had great effects with the way that they started it off in the last round, but they kind of slouched a little bit in the transition. I'd be curious to watch that one back on the replay to figure out what had happened and how Pole got those 2 picks to push the man advantage back to a neutral position. Nobody contesting up above, so it looks like Syntex are going to have free reign to ascertain the vertical control. Still being a little bit cautious, though. They don't want to have somebody swing up, and, well, there is the swing. It's a player challenging from top white, but Conkus has a great cutoff as he spams the wall, and the Wamai will go down without having that final disc to be deployed, but 13, he's ready there for the strike back as he'll serve another piece of utility away from the board, and 13 himself, despite being knocked over by the air jab of his just felled opponent, we'll find another one as he picks off Yotsuba, and Syntex fail to hold control after getting that opening frag.
Oh, Hexes nearly avoids death right there. The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for Flexo, who will go down. And a lot of blind pushes coming out here from these attackers. I say that Hexes does manage to pick up Zanky, but it will be T-Hunt Bomber 47 swinging in with the HMG. Goes for another one. Blade tries to bring the kill in, and he will get 13 down. And then the Shumikas start to fly. And suddenly, the Thermite finds himself dealing with entirely too many incendiaries, even for that operator. Another Shumika being launched in there. Blade in a very dangerous position and will be finished off by T-Hunt. Well done to the Shashanka, making his presence noted. Look at that. Clean as a whistle.
That is about the weirdest way I've ever seen a dining kitchen defense conclude on Oregon.
Yeah, you like that? All fighting on the top floor?
Oh, yeah. And they didn't even hold the top floor. 93 just continued to walk up the white stairs. They were just having a real ball. Oh, that was a weird one there for 9-3. I kind of get the feeling that they're having a bit of fun here in this game, and Syntex are just sort of being caught in the wake.
Alas, it does happen. It does happen, but oh well. Syntex did all right, I guess, in theory. I mean, they have the right idea of what they wanted to do, but again, and maybe I'm being a little uncharitable here, but it does seem like there's a lot of swings on corners that look relatively blind. I mean, you saw it on those stairs. Your teammate gets murked. There's a C4 that comes up as well, and you still hard swing that. Like, you still jump right into it. I don't know why you would assume that a defender is not in that general area. I mean, sort of a cautious level of play might be beneficial right there. And speaking of cautious, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that trap placement right there on the master bedroom wall, but it will at least slow them down just a little bit as they try and get into that closet. Bit of an interesting choice. Pole going to set up these Volcons back here as well. That's a risky one in my opinion. Yeah, he's going to pack it up for a second. I was going to say, Stick, putting it right next to a window like that when you only have a Jaeger is a bold choice.
Definitely is. I'd like to see Syntex.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh boy.
Took Zanky a second to figure that one out too.
Well, what I was going to say before Zanky had his moment with Valkyrie Black Eye was I want to see Syntex take the opening frag and not just completely give it away back to their opponent, because it feels like that's kind of been the situation where we've been out so far. Maybe they just don't expect 9-3 to suffer that opening casualty, and for a lot of teams, the decision-making process there would be, we've lost a player, so let's kind of reel back to the side.
Oh. I said that I thought that was bad, and of course Yatsuma jumps into it like a kid into a swimming pool on a hot summer's day, just straight in.
Oh,
unfortunate.
No cares.
Nope.
That's a rough one, but. What I was gonna say is I don't think Syntex are really prepared for 9-3 to just send out wave after wave of their players. Like, this is defense, but it feels like 9-3 are attacking.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment, and I agree with you. I mean, they were basically attacking last round. Yatsuba's dropped down now, checking out that game's window and kind of falling back. 13 playing it up back here on the stairs with the Capkin. Does have the suppressor on the gun and a C4 in the pocket, but he doesn't look over at the stairs. Hex pops back down. The easiest kill of the day right there for the IQ as the window is blown. Dexter's actually going to hard swing into it. No hesitation whatsoever, but now finds himself a little bit trapped in that closet, and in the closet he will remain. He's hung up to dry right there, and only 3 members left here for 9-3.
Good position for Zanky, just playing through the vertical below the wall, and Tian Bomber could put his Shumika to use as well. The health starting to get kind of whittled away here. Another incendiary deployment just over the top of the trophy wall. The man advantage has not been traded out yet. Syntex have got it all going on for them. But when you think about it, 3 of their players are easy targets, but it's one of the two is at 100 health who falls, and another one will get taken out now. Hex, the bodies continue to fall for Syntex as they're getting picked off here and can fail to execute onto the site. Blade will make that a little bit easier going, and Yotsuba finds one. His pull just walks right into the angle, not expecting a player outside of the big window at the moment. Under a minute remaining. Zanky just waiting. There's a player crouch walking through, but the Valkyrie is ready for it now. Spots the Thermite. Vulcan shot out now, and the Thermite has actually adjusted his position. This isn't realized by Zanky, who will now go below. Some damage being taken from the Vulcan's flame. Blade is going to go for a plant. It's in an off position, and Zanky might not be ready for it, but the Valkyrie below. Blade will fake it off. He goes to a safe position. Hiding close to the trophy door. Zanky doesn't have a nitro, and now it's the post plant. Blade has got the case down. Zanky is health. It's oh so low here, and you're up against the 5.56, which is not going to really be a big friend when you're at these medium ranges. Challenging forward. Zanky is looking for it, but the Thermite will play back inside pit, trying to hold off, and Blade will manage it. Syntex, ooh, that one was a bit of a roller coaster, but eventually the 1v1 will conclude in their favor.
Well, they definitely had to work for it right there. I'll say that. But I mean, great composure, great thought process there from Blade. All credit to him in that support role. Came up, did exactly what you would want your support player to do in that situation. Made the safe plant, forced the defenders on the back foot a little bit, and then just waited and played that very, very well. So all ups to Blade right there for a round well done. And I was just thinking, as I was watching all of that go down, Stick, what would make that so much easier? What operator would make that so much easier? It starts with an F and ends with Lores. I'll just say that right now, with those Volcans and the Capkin traps and the need for soft destruction and the need to even, I guess, go so far as to say force defenders out of certain positions. I just think a Flores would be benefiting them so well right now. But I do admire their tenacity, and I admire their ability to stick at this, even when things are looking a little bit dour at times.
Well, the merry-go-round of operators continues to go. Now we've got a Rook here in the composition. 9-3, they definitely don't let themselves be defined by the meta, but we haven't seen the, not the Melusi, the Alibi yet, which I'm waiting for it. I want to see the Alibi. I feel like if any operator here in 9-3 would play, they would bring the Alibi because of her fragging power.
You would think this, yes. I don't disagree with you, but it's interesting. I think I've said this before about Rook, but of kind of a lot of the meme pick operators, Rook does have, I think, the highest sort of win percentage overall, which is something interesting. And I don't necessarily know what that coordination is or like why he tends to have a high win percentage, but when people bring him out in Platinum above, he wins a lot of the rounds that he's involved in, even though it's not that many overall. So always a bit of an interesting note when you see a Rook. And, as a gadget, he doesn't offer a ton to talk about. There's not a lot of strategic flexibility of putting the bag down and telling everybody to grab a plate, but he does offer maybe some advantages in gunfights. And I don't know that necessarily 9-3 needs that, but certainly it's something that you're never going to scoff at.
No, not really. You don't really need to give yourselves that much of a leg up, but 9-3, if they've got it. If Thurton wants to play for that 2.0 on the MP5, he'll certainly go for it. As a substitute player, he's just kind of making his own decisions so far. It seems like this game has been fairly loose from 9 and 3, and Syntex have got a little bit more composure, but so far composure has got them trailing 1 round to their opponents, who began here on the defense. Again, Syntex have only decided to bring a single hard breacher, which could be a little bit of a problem, but given the 9 and 3 don't have the opportunity to bring Cade, of course he's banned. Maybe that's not the largest issue in the world after all, but the one thing that you think about is, without having an extra hard breacher here, I think the likelihood that we see more of a main stairs freezer take is probably going to go up.
I think you're right. I mean, Blade has done a good job of staying alive through a lot of these rounds, but he's only one person, right? You just can't have him in multiple places at once. And 13 does manage to secure a kill right there, so Flexo is down. I think one of the members of 9 and 3 is out of this as well, as 13 just nets another one. It's Yotsuba just blind swings the corner right there and gets annihilated. The ADS not offering enough protection, though, so that'll be fallback time here. 13 in a bit of a dangerous spot as well, as Hexes take some shots, already pushed up to Laundry, trying to get a little bit further, but Pull is waiting there in the closet and will just nail a headshot right out the rip. Chancha's now trying to push up here, looks wide, doesn't see anything, gets shot from an angle they don't even realize it's Pull there with the MP5K, getting that one. Blade tries to swing the corner as well, and Zanky just waiting there to clean that up and finish that off.
First half concluded, and 9 and 3 are going to wrap it up at 4-2. It's been a fairly unusual game so far, but I think it's about to get a lot more wacky, given that 9 and 3 are now on the offense, where their unorthodox style of play can definitely put us in a position that's a little bit more, maybe awry would be the way to describe it. You do have 2 hard breachers being brought, or at least we did, until Zanky swapped off, and the Amaru from 13 was definitely the operator I was expecting out of these all.
Sure. Why not? Why not bring an Amaru at this stage? Hex is switching over to a Frost right there. And by the way, just go back to that Rook note really quick. Highest win delta of any defensive operator, despite his incredibly low pick rate. Something interesting there to put in your Rainbow Six Siege trivia cat for whatever it's worth. But the Amaru pick is, relatively expected. I think that's not entirely surprising. I'm actually surprised that T-Hunt Bomber 47 picked something as conservative as Savannah. If I'm being honest with you, I was expecting something a little bit more crazy like that. Now, the thing that I'm going to watch for here is if 13 gets caught in one of the frost mats that Hexes has put down, because that's the scary thing, right? If you're an Amaru and there's a frost, unless you've droned it very well, you try and yeet yourself into sight or something, and you just walk face first into a bear trap, or I should say leg first into a bear trap. Always something you have to worry about, but we'll see. And we'll see too kind of what they do with the operators they have.
I think they're kind of baiting the Amaru here with Hex's Frost Trap below the hatch.
I think you're right. Well,
that's the curious.
Come on. Oh, alrighty.
Oops. Oopsie daisies. And this round just got a lot worse. No, the Amaru!
Dead before we even got to see the LMG in action. What a tragedy.
That's a tough one. You got to keep going, though. 9 and 3 are at a disadvantage, but they've been in this position before. Will it have more of an impact? Oh, because it's on the attack. Who knows? It could, or it could. Maybe because 9 and 3 are hard to predict. They get the upper hand. Got to work for the pick here, though, as you've got the hard breach. Ooh, that's a grisly one for T-Hunt Bombers. The Nitro flies through, and Conkus is prone in the breach space. He'll move forward. They've got the 3 ping as Pole will try to gather one back. Diego spotted it bottom main. How does Yotsuba win that?
I don't know. That was crazy. He managed to pull that one off. Speaking of Pole's trying to fire at the back window. You see Zanky with those question marks there in the chat as well. Also, surprised as we are, Pole does manage to get Yotsuba down, so a little bit of vengeance right there. The shot's still coming in, but I mean, what is Pole really going to do in this situation? Absolute gunner for his side. 10 and 3 overall, has been very effective. Clutched out a round earlier on, but that was a 2v1 on defense where both the opponents were on low health. Bit of an attempt there to cause some damage to Hexes. Won't do much as Pole plays back on that big window. Fires a couple of individual tippy taps into the dorm room, but really, I mean, we're just spitting at this point in time and hoping somebody sticks. And, oh, nope, Hexes waiting there, for the Ash to jump in, cleans it up, easy as you please, no problems at all, and a good start for the defensive side.
Well, it seems the expectation of the second half being even more weird and kooky has definitely gone through.
For sure.
9-3's lead, though, has started to shrink a little bit as Syntex are closing the distance, and they see how aggressive 9-3 played in the first half, and they're like, yeah, we want some of that as well. We're going to play just as aggressive, maybe even a little bit more in some of those cases.
Yeah, I think that's, perfectly fine. And if Syntex feel comfortable falling into that and trying to set that as kind of the tempo, I think that's perfectly well and good. It kind of be interesting down here in basement to see what Zanky can do with this Flores. Obviously, going to require a little bit more conservative play, at least in those initial setups, right? So that's something to keep an eye on here. No Volcon to really take advantage of, but I mean, in terms of destroying, maybe projectile denial, very effective for that, and just in general taking down shields as well, making that 90 hold kind of untenable if they do so chose to hold it. Yeah, sure enough, Zanky will be quite strong in that particular capacity as well. Switching over to the Surya gates here, Hex is coming out on the Aruni. I agree with that in principle, but I think that's not a bad choice. They get those up, cause a little bit of slowdown. They've got a psychological factor to them as well as their projectile denial sort of setup right there, and you've definitely got everything set up here to shut down every projectile in the game. Maybe a little bit too much, but if they're going for this blue bunker push, which it does look like they will, you're going to appreciate that in just a few seconds.
Yeah, the Ying starting to sound off. This is kind of going to give Syntex a bit of a clue in, though. They work the opener, and that's a bit of a tough reality to face. Now that they are aware of this, you're probably going to see a little bit more focus trying to push back and hold this one off, and I think the biggest problem here is you probably lost the element of surprise at this moment, Corvac. I doubt Syntex are going to be caught off guard by this. They pushed up continuously. Yotsuba works one onto the corner player there. 9-3, losing bodies by the count. An inability to move forward. Pull will work a frag, but as Dexter tries to move forward, he gets caught in a little bit of a crossfire situation. 13, the only player left here at the rush side as Pull is working in more individual play. Coming down the freezer stairs and searching for a pick. I wouldn't be too quick to call this one, though. There's 1:45 here. It's a 2 versus 3, and most valuably, 13 has still got 3 Candelas, which could be a huge piece of leverage, especially when you're working in a man disadvantage.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you're right, 100%. They lost the element of surprise. They stuck with it. They won some gunfights here, but I mean, look at what Pole's done. Rotated all the way around the back, does manage to get hexes. It was an ugly kill, but a kill is a kill nonetheless. Pole here now on the basement stairs, trying to push up. 13 dropping underneath, doing some util clear right there. Will, of course, run face first in that fortified wall. Has to go back the other way, but Pole is properly in now. Fox inside the hen house down here by Pillar gets caught on a wide angle. The 2 SAS boys still holding out. The SMG 11s coming into full swing in this situation. Neither one of them really willing to give ground. The candelabra comes swinging out. That'll be an easy kill there for 13. Still one more SAS off to deal with. Blade doesn't see it. 13 swings the corner and gets the kill. And beautiful play from 13. I'm shocked that they survived that one.
Oh, you know how it all goes, Corvac. It's never over until the fat lady sings, or I guess the Hong Konger lady in this situation, or Taiwanese, excuse me, there for the Ying, makes it happen. 9-3, they get it in a very unusual fashion. What a round. The rush fails, but Pole just works his picks. He gets his frags, finding those kills individually, and 9-3 beat Syntex because their opponent failed to play together.
Yeah, there's There was a lot to unpack in that one. I'm going to be honest. I mean, there was the initial failure of the surprise attack, right? And it was like a scene from a movie where like the flare goes up as they're sneaking across or something, and then suddenly everybody starts getting shot, and the plan is ruined. But I mean, they stuck with it anyway. They managed to pick up some kills while doing that, which were absolutely essential. And then they just kind of dug in and trusted in their mechanical skill right there. And it was a great rotate from pull to come all the way down the back stairs to really sort of shift the nature of this fight a little bit and force these defenders maybe into a little bit less of a favorable position. You're kind of forcing them to change the boards. They'd already used a ton of util right there trying to deny you at blue, so you're aware of that as well. And then just good play at the end coming forward right there. 13 doing a really good job of maintaining calm and collected poise moving forward. Poor Stick, he's upset because he said that Ying was from Taiwan. It's all right, man. You're good. She is from Hong Kong, but it's not a big deal. Don't worry. The lore of Siege can be put in the back seat as long as we're getting some interesting gameplay, I think.
Yeah, you got to be careful if you mix up some of those Asian countries. That could get you in a bit of trouble, so we'll be careful with that one in the meanwhile. But 9-3 continue to bring this sort of fast and on-the-go approach to their offense with the Ying still being here. Dexter playing a little bit passive from beyond the Surya gate and holding off to hope that maybe Syntex get a little bit aggro or... Wow, okay, well, they do get aggro, but it's
I was gonna
not
say,
in the place that they
speaking
were
of aggro.
expecting. Yeah, Yotsuba just walks up and puts the barrel right up against Pole, and for the power player in the previous round, now they've lost their life.
Unfortunate. You don't think you ever really account on Yotsuba being up there, but definitely caught him by surprise. A little bit of a horror movie jump scare there for him, and they've done a relatively good job of maintaining their defensive perimeter. Zanky has pushed up to the bottom of the laundry stairs. Going to go ahead and just swing that very tentatively. Does a little bit of feet peeking as well. Tries to give himself an idea of what's going on, and that's a very good track coming there into Freezer, helping out immensely. Dexter now falling back. 13 manages to secure the kill on Yotsuba, so now a 4v4 with about 1:20 left on the clock, and Zanky is nestled down here in laundry with that long sight line.
Continue to hear the beep beep of the procs, and 13 finds one in the meanwhile. Hex is
kind of a big flash coming in there from the Candela. Now Hexus swings out on the other side. T-Hunt Bomber is down, and it will continue to go here. Hex is falling back into the freezer, and there's an opponent right there. This is awkward. They're all over each other. What is going on?
Oh my, this is just... Oh, how does Hex do that? There's no way he gets the 180 flick shot. My word. This game, it's just off the rails, Corvette.
I mean, genuinely, one of the weirdest Siege matches I think I've ever seen. What was that? They were just in the fog, stumbling around, shooting bullets at one another. Dexter trying to bring it out. That's absolutely crazy. I can't even believe what I just saw. Not only that, but I mean, there's always something to be said for there's this huge map, all these ways to attack that site. And somehow you have two people end up right next to each other in freezer in the same cloud of smoke. Absolutely insane. I don't even know what to make of that. That is just a crazy round, and I hope they're having fun with it, because this is remarkably entertaining for a map that people like to call Oregon. This is definitely one of the least boring Oregon matchups I've seen in some time.
I've just had to completely stop taking notes at this point because this game just does not live by any level of expectation. Nothing that you can think about in the run-up to the round is what actually might transpire. But it looks as though 9-3, the one thing that you might predict is a continuation of their aggressive play, because 13 has not given up. The Ying will continue to bring that more and more. The one thing that I'd like to see from Syntex a little bit, though, is maybe more capitalization off of the Black Guys, because 9-3 don't have a IQ. They're not bringing her. And so finding those cams is not really the biggest goal. I think on 9-3's position, they move so fast, though, that it's hard to get the most use out of the Black Eye cams, period.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, at the sake of sounding a little harsh, neither of these two teams have really put caution and intel gathering at the forefront of their operational capabilities. It's not that they haven't been doing it at all, right? That's definitely, they have been droning, they have been checking their cameras as you would expect them to, but I think there's been a lot of quite kind of just aggressive heads up play. And speaking of that, Yotsuba sneaking up the back stairs to Big Tower, just marks 13, and Zanky comes running back down, but it's far too little, far too late. Fortunately, we'll be able to do a little bit of a feet peek there and at least knows that the Jaeger is in that general area, and that'll be Yotsuba peeling out, running for the heels, using the other staircase, coming up at a freezer to completely fall back, and, well, it's a 5v3 already. Make it a 5v2. Why not?
Tough luck here for 9 and 3. They have not had the best go of things at the start of this round, continuing to lose pick after pick. See if they can work any of them back. Yotsuba's in a cursed position. He's prone at the top of the white stairs, and now there he goes. Swings out, and Zanky will capitalize. 2 versus 4. Not impossible, but looking difficult. Seems like Flexo is getting a bit of exercise there inside Attic. You can see him running in place. Actually, that's Hex who will actually disconnect. 1 versus 3. Zofia certainly won't find herself in a shortage of ammunition. 150 rounds to fill the magazine of the LMG, but Conkus will hit the swing, and that'll be enough to finish us off as Syntex bring the game back to 5-5.
Can I say, Conkus has been such a stalwart on that SAS operator, like really has done good work with that SMG-11 over and over again, especially on that top floor defensive point. We saw him pick up some beautiful kills with the SMG-11, starting on 13, getting murked coming up to the basement, or coming up to the balcony on the Amaro, if you remember that one from a couple of rounds back. Just really well done, and you got to admire that coming in as a substitute and just kind of locking it down and holding the fort. It's been a wild one, though, Stick. It's been a wild one. I don't necessarily know what to make of this. This is not your typical Oregon. These are not the typical Oregon things that we are used to people doing. These aren't even typical Oregon operators. This is crazy town.
Yeah, what are we talking about in this color segment now? we don't know how to. The handbook has just been completely thrown out for this game and leaves us in this position where we don't know what is going to happen. But going back to maybe a little bit more ranked nature, as it feels this game has gone to just a little bit. Momentum is pretty valuable, and right now, I don't think really either team has it too huge. You know, I could say for Syntex, they have just brought the game back to equal, but we could see 9-3 win this next round and again be in a lead, but they would also be on match points, so a pretty big determining round.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, all credit to Syntex. They've done a really good job of sticking in this one. They've been matching 9-3 blow for blow, right? We've seen that time and time again. And this aggressive play style that they're beginning to embrace here as defenders is really working out for them. I mean, the fact that Yotsuba has basically been able to get these sort of cheap hyper aggro kills at the start of both of these last 2 rounds has been hugely influential, right? In the entire pacing of how everything's gone. I mean, that kill on large tower stairs that we saw right there that second time, that was ridiculous, right? It's just, you know, being sneaky, getting up there, getting an early pick, taking down a player, and then just belting away. The death, unfortunately for Yotsuba, was a little less glorious, a little less effective, but still, I mean, just hugely critical, and the team is doing a good job of kind of capitalizing on those early picks as well. And you can tell that when they lose their operators like that, it does seem to kind of send a little bit of a ripple, a little bit of a disturbance all the way through 9-3 as they try and work things out. There was clearly a plan, right, up there in the attic push that time. There was clearly a plan, completely dematerialized, just faded into the fog.
Well, hopefully Hex can find his way back into the lobby. Hopefully his internet has not gone out for good. And, oh, there we go. He has returned back, and we are concluding with the game. Both teams still at equal, as we mentioned, stepping into round number 11, as it were. Going to kitchen and dining, which I believe this is the first time that we've seen Syntex defend any of the tertiary sites so far.
You are correct. Yeah, it is our first trip down to the tertiary sites. Obviously, like you said before, when we were in that little break, this is a round that 9-3 would like to win, or either of these teams would like to win, just put themselves up in the map point and thus match point. So something to keep in mind there as well. Looking at this defensive setup, I mean, you brought Goyo along, so you do have the Volcans to play with. You have Blade on the Echo, so some Yokais coming in. The double projectile denial just makes sense, right, when you're bringing Volcans. We mentioned this earlier, but the one attacking operator that's missing, and again would be very useful, is Goyo. You will not, or Volcan. Oh my gosh, I was talking about the gadget that Flores can destroy, not the operator himself, but you are missing Flores in this setup going into those Volcans, and that would be very useful indeed.
Always can be a little bit helpful. One thing that we'd like to note as well here, we have had another game that was going on off stream, which was Revenge Nation versus Mystic, which was a pretty huge game. Of course, both of those two teams kind of being at the top of their conference so far. And it was Revenge Nation who managed to win 7-4. So if you were interested in that one, there's the score for you. Unfortunately, it was not recorded, so we won't have the VOD casted over as a rerun later down the line. So maybe some congratulations in order there for Revenge Nation, who have looked like a really hot team so far coming out of this weekend's SFCL quals. And also moving forward, their form is just ship shape. But we're back into the madness that is this Oregon dungeon.
I'm actually surprised. I would have picked Mystic, but there we go anyway. Push going forward there. Tranche is backed up. Waiting in showers, he'll get a kill. Diog sailing out right there, put Zanky down, continuing to hold in the showers position. Doesn't want to give it up just yet. Has a good little murder hole there at foot level. Dexter is in that general spot as well. We'll need to be careful. T-Hump Bomber trying to open this wall up properly will do so in fine fashion right there. Might actually catch the defender a little off guard. The impact comes out. Oh, well done. Shuts it down before they can develop anything more off of that. And you got to appreciate it. Yokai coming in there. T-Hunt Bomber trying to do a little bit of shooting range action will destroy that Yokai. And that is putting things in a bit of a difficult spot here for the defenders. They're losing operators. They're losing ground. They're starting to lose util. Now they've lost Chanchas, who was holding up there in showers, and they've lost control of that area as well.
And they've sort of lost control of the trade game as well, is other than that earlier death of Zanky, no casualties to come as of yet, but you don't want to speak too soon. A Nitro launched out. The detonator will come, but it's actually shot in mid-air. Great find, but Blade works a pick of his own. A challenge 1-for-1 here. Hex goes prone, trying to play from out in the hallway, but it's the swing on the other side. Great teamwork there. Now inching forward, they've got to be aware of that there's one up here on the vertical. T-Hunt Bomber will begin the plant. It should be safely down, as Blade doesn't really have any Yokais to work with. He can't deny the plant, and now the realization is really here. This one matters so much, but Dexter is back, is exposed. The player moves down the white staircase, but Flex will actually walk past him. Dexter doesn't really matter for him in the meanwhile. T-Hunt Bomber down, and that'll be a great retake there. The 2 versus X, and the knife to finish it off for Flex.
Well, fair play. Really well done. I was just about to say, you know, Blade, this is why you have to be very careful with your Yokais as an Echo player. I mean, we pretty much exclusively see him brought, you know, obviously the drone intel is great and good and all, and the Yokais are still a valuable intel gathering tool, but I mean, the real thing that separates him from other intel ops, from other kind of operators, is the fact that he can shut down those plants. So losing your Yokais early on in the rounds, that's a bit problematic. Fortunately, they were able to wrench that one back around, and again, I must pass on my compliments to Blade, who continues to remain very calm and composed in very difficult situations, which I think has been kind of a standout presence on this Syntex side. Even if he doesn't have the most kills, has done a good job of anchoring the squad. We now move on to match point and laundry supply. Flores will be brought this time, and last time we were down here, Stick, well, they tried a very ambitious but ultimately doomed attempt to breach down by Blue Bunker. I do wonder if they go back there again. They are showing some of the similar ops to what they brought last time, but considering how largely ineffective that was, I think it might be relatively ill-advised.
That makes it sound so theatrical. Ultimately, their defense round was doomed. The basement side and its curse.
I don't know what else I would call it, to be honest. It was straight up doomed the minute that they got rolled, and then it was like, oh well, I guess we'll just keep trying. I mean, it was fortunate it worked out the way it did, but I would not go back there. Theatricality aside, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, either way, Syntex have got to play some site. If they feel it's the basement, that's on them. For the closeout, again, we'll have Hex do the little bulletproof camera Rooney trick here. Laser gate to go down, and this will protect it. We saw this come through last time. I'd love to see where 9 and 3 spawn in, because if we've got 5 by construction again, I think that's going to spell what we have for this attack.
It would not surprise me, but they have chosen not to go with that. They will go for the more, perhaps, conservative approach of all, I guess, going in and trying to secure this one top down, which is never an ill-advised thing to do. Oh, maybe missed the drone here. The Valkyrie slipped the net, I think. We might be in for a bit of trouble right here. They have no idea that Chonkus is in this position. He could literally get a kill for free. Oh, the swing comes in. Oh, T-Hub Bomber can't secure it. Valkyrie still fighting out. Pole manages to trade it back out, and the death's flying as Pole gets another one. 9 and 3 in a beautiful position, and only a minute into this round.
This one might be accelerating off the charts. You heard the Candela begin to detonate, that familiar sound of the execute to come. 2 versus 4. A breaching round put to use. Zanky will use one of his Flores drones that pushes Blade out of Chala, but he moves back into the position just the same way. One close at the door. It's a trade situation. Smoke canister going out, the 1v3, but we will not see the closeout as 9 to 3 prolong this Oregon game and send us into overtime.
Yeah, they will take us to overtime. It's a bit like the Hotel California around here. Even if it isn't Oregon, you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And we will see now going into overtime what they can muster on this. This has been just so strange. It's been an up and down. And I mean, I think, to be honest, the overtime genuinely doesn't surprise me. There was a part of me that I think thought when we came into the split that 9 and 3 would kind of gallop away with this one, right? I did genuinely think that was going to happen, but Syntex, I gotta give them credit. This is the tenacity that they showed in their previous match as well. They just have not let this go, right? Like a dog with a bone. They're just worrying it and keeping at it right until the bitter end. And starting off now on the defense for 9-3, they're going to bring out, finally, Alibi, who will make her appearance, and they're bringing the double whammy here as well to back that up.
Well, just to tag on there to your point about the Hotel California, let's be glad that we don't have overtime, infinite overtime like we did last season. Otherwise, we could very well be here for ever and not be able to check out, so to speak. But moving forward, we got the Rooney. Hey, 13 has finally brought it. All it took was overtime, but he does pick it up, and we'll get to see what he can make use of that MX4. Imagine like 13 has brought the Alibi, but it doesn't have the 1.5x. Like he's just brought it to mess with us.
You know, funny enough, I almost did say, I wonder if he actually has the 1.5x. That would be pretty funny indeed. I actually like Alibi as an operator. I think she brings a lot to the table. She's got the shield. She's got solid gadgets. I think the 1.5 makes her quite, strong. I think we'll see her more and more in rotations now as time goes by. But then again, I'm not a Siege big brain. I don't know the true density of strats. What I do know, though, is if Hexes just jumps in through that door, he's going to get shot. And wisely, Hexes will fall back there and will resist the urge to yeet when he perhaps should skeet. 13 will continue to hold the basement stairs, just waiting for somebody to walk into that 1.5 site.
Always gotta love the old rear stage aggressive play. Need to be careful though. 13 has shown his willingness to play aggressive, but it's not really how the start of this round will go. He falls back, Dexter taking a not-so-healthy portion of damage. Ooh, bit of a struggle. Dexter will fall. He does manage to get some reciprocity back there against Flex, but nothing conclusive, and so the Iana will survive with her replicator, with her frags, and with whatever other utility she has still left to go in the way of drones. or bullets, which can be utility if you think about it in the scheme of things of getting kills. But TNT Bomber is droned out. He'll fall off. Dexter has returned to us. Oh, but look at this. Exo is going to play it aggressive. Shotgun peek. The Ash, will she work down towards it? Conkus falls, DBNO, and Hex is taken off as well. A stack up here at the bottom of the stairs. The flashbang out. T-Hunt Bomber gets one blind.
What?
And another double kill from 13, leaving it up to Blade, who's got to walk down the stairs. But it's a quick pull trigger from 13, rather from Exo, to finish it off there at the staircase. And they'll get the first round in OT.
Beautiful bit of hip fire there. Just let it rip. You can't discount the Mossberg in close quarters right that, but it's unfortunate. Will be worth watching in replays to see exactly what 13 there to land their namesake number of kills on the board. And those top 3 players for the 9-3 side have just been beasts on this Oregon map. Absolute beast. And now, Syntex, in a situation that they are unfortunately familiar with here, setting up on the defense, having to try and win this one out. They do not want to lose this 8-6. They have played so well across this entire match. It would almost be tragic to see them go down here at this final hurdle. Valkyrie coming out from Blade right there. Otherwise, sticking with Aruni, Mute, Jaeger, Malusi. And on the other side, Zanki whips out Montaigne on the 6 pick, because at this point in time, match point in overtime, why would you not bring Montaigne to the field?
And this game just has no storyline, no rules, no no conventions that it follows. We just get what we get, and that's that. And in round number 14, we'll get the Monty from Zanki. This game is exhausting to cast this one. This is
the last thing they would expect. Nobody would expect a Montaigne here.
Especially from 9-3 have been so aggressive. Monty really just doesn't fit their bill.
It doesn't at all. It's a very strange pick. We'll see. You know what? Fine. I said things that I thought, that'll never work. That trap on closet door, for example, I was like, that's not a good trap. And I was proved wrong. So maybe Zanki on the Montaigne, that's going to be astounding. It's something we haven't realized. And if I'm, being honest with you, I think everybody does kind of like Montaigne at times. It's always funny to watch him brought out. So we'll see what he does. Zanki pushing up here. No Fear Cavalier straight up into the door of Trophy Room with the big shield out in front to lead the way. And a little bit of check there as well into Armory, just to make sure nobody's waiting for them. And then they come to the first hurdle, which will be the Syria Gate here. And that intel gathering from the Montaigne cannot be discounted. That is one of the most valuable aspects of that character when push comes to shove. The wall blown right in Conscious's face. That's unfortunate indeed. The Mute is down, and I don't think they're going to be able to get him back up. Zanki feeling a little bit of pressure there as well.
There we go for the confirm as Dexter just works his way through the wall. Pole will earn one in the meanwhile. Now the man advantage here for 9-3, and that's got to be already difficult, but never more so frustrating than when you don't have the man advantage and you're up against a shield operator who's going to slowly work against you. I think they're still working on clearing the Surya Gate here at the trophy. Dorio Tsuba works one back. He gets Exo as he tried to walk in through the breach, but was unaccompanied by the rest of his teammates. No Nitro, though. Blade's already having used his, I believe, over the trophy wall. Yotsuba walks in, and he works one there against Dexter. 3 versus 3, and now the man advantage is towards neither team. But Zanki has got his shield up and his pistol still in its holster. And 1 minute and 5 left to go in the round. The time is getting rather low.
This is the weirdest. All right. Anyway. Out comes the drone, takes out the Surya Gate. Yotsuba picks up pull. 13 now pushing in. Oh, just right into the face of Blade. Blade with the delayed reaction goes down. 13 with the wall bang as well onto Flexo. Oh, Yotsuba, though, fights it back, takes 13 down. Now it's just Zanki, the Montaigne versus the Jaeger. An oppositional matchup you don't expect to see very often. Zanky forced to fall back here into Attic, just waiting for the opportunity to get a cheeky pick. Goes ahead and plants the diffuser here. Yotsuba biding their time carefully. Stepping around the corner, has the soft ping, comes out, rips the shots, won't find it. The shield is still there. Zanky in a difficult situation, though, and Yotsuba swings out for the ace. Oh my good lord. Give that man a medal. He pushes it on for his team.
Certainly some awards ceremony to be given, but the game goes on. Yotsuba says it's not over yet. He gets the ace, and he pushes us on into max OT here in this Week 3 Wednesday game. 7-7, we're all tied up, and there's one final round to decide who's going home with all the points in this win. Is it going to be the Monty again? No. Syntex aren't going to absorb that strategy from 9-3. They're going to go with what they know. 9-3 are going to kind of just play dorms again. But no Capcan.
No Capcan. No, I'm stressed. I'm telling you. I'm gripping my desk. This is got my heart racing. I don't know who I even want to see win this one. This has been so crazy. I feel like it can't even favor a side. It's just could be either of them, really, the way these rounds have been playing out. I mean, a slight advantage here for 9-3 just because of they are on the defense, just because of that slight advantage. But I don't think that's guaranteed at all. Syntex have shown the capability to kind of explode back from near-death scenarios, like some sort of revenant from beyond. And we'll see if they can do it again here. I think it's definitely, going to be hard. If you're 9-3, you're stealing yourselves mentally. But this setup, we've seen time and time again, there are no surprises here for them, Stick. This is going to be the exact same thing they pushed into before. It's just, can they, win it this time like they have in the past?
Well, Dexter is looking to start off this round with an aggressive play. He's going double negative so far, which, despite all the hype that we gave him, you wouldn't really expect, but he doesn't really commit to the spawn peek attempt there out through the main door. He falls back before getting overly greedy, I suppose you could say. This is a really important moment, though, for Syntex, who need this win badly. Haven't been able to accumulate any points so far this season. And if they head into week number 4 with still no wins, we already talked about the implications of that, and, well, Syntex, it's up to them to decide their own destiny here and now. Yep.
Sometimes you just take your fate into your own hands and make it what it will, right? And Yotsuba going to go ahead and blow out the floor there, demake it the floor, as it were, going for, I believe they thought there would be a Volcon up there. It doesn't look like there was, because there's no explosion of fire. T-Hunt, oh no, there was. It just missed it by about quarter of an inch. Apparently that explosion just would not travel that little bit of distance. Fortunately, it will travel for the other one. So the second Volcon is down, and Zanky, feeling the heat right there, will back up. And now the attackers literally tripping over each other to get up these armory stairs and begin their assault. The tippy tap coming in there to take down the cam, as Chonchus will make the first kill. Chonkus, whatever it is. Dexter is down. I mean, it's been a rough day out for Dexter, and it continues to be rough here in the final round of overtime. Now, the Nomad planting the air jab down. T-Hunt Bomber 47 drops, and things heating up here for Syntex when they really need to.
This could be very explosive. The smoke will walk forward. Flex gets one. Nade connect. Exothermic detonates, but it's only one defender remaining. Pulled, the top fragger, who's been a crazy showstopper so far this season, 1 versus 3. The IQ has worked her way through the white rotate, but backing up could be exposed. There might be a failure of the intel here. They might even go for the res. The player's still close at the big window. But the IQ just gets it. That's huge for Syntex. The points win. They defeat 9-3.
Wow. Yeah, hard-fought victory. Yeah, let's say that one again. Oh, my lord. What a match, Stick. I mean, we did not get 2 games today, which was tragic, I will admit, but that was more siege than I think a lot of us out there could until that was nothing like what you would expect when you picked Oregon out. You know, we were talking about it before the match started. We're going to be like, oh, it's tried and true. Everybody knows everything. There's not going to be a lot of excitement or changes or innovation. And they push it all the way to max OT. We see every operator under the sun making an appearance, it seemed like, during the course of that. An absolutely wild one tonight here at UPL.
Yeah, that was really the variety special as far as games go. Went all the way into OT, had so many clutches, close moments, explosive plays, and heartbreak moments. But it's Syntex who pull out the win. They take down 9-3, and they get their first win of the season, and they start off on a nice track towards recovery to try to build up a little bit more form as we continue on into week number 4. With that being said, though, we do have more games still left to be played coming up this week. Of course, tomorrow on Thursday, I believe we'll just have one game. I think it's the second one that gets played out.
That is correct.
Should be between Candace and Daycare, so if you're interested in those two teams, if you're a fan of them, be sure to tune in, which I believe that'll be fellow, or should maybe it's Chief and Infernosis. I know Infernosis is there, so
I think it's
if you like Infernosis, okay. I know everybody likes Infernosis, so show him some love. Be sure to tune in. But that's all from us. It's been a really fun game. It was one that we didn't know what to really expect of. 9-3 are kind of more of a ranked team, but Syntex have had a creative look at how they play Siege this season. And for them to finally get a points win off the back of it, I think that really means a lot for them, how they move forward. But with that being said, that's it for us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show. Me and Corbeck certainly had a lot of fun, but Unified Premier will be back for more Siege action tomorrow. In the meanwhile, have a good rest of your evening.